Mavs. Kendra Andrews joins us now here on The Fan. Good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic, thanks. Let's start with Golden State here. How big of a story is this on ESPN today with Klay returning to Golden State, Kendra?
I mean, it's huge. I just got off of NBA Today, setting the scene with my sister Malika Andrews, and the Warriors are, how they're explaining it is they're trying to tribute and welcome Klay back in a way that has never been done before in the NBA. And you just think back to his 11 seasons with the Warriors, how many historic, jaw-dropping, incredible moments there were. It's a huge deal, right? And it's a huge deal to ESPN. It's a huge deal to the NBA. It's a huge deal to the Warriors. And even though Klay isn't quite talking on it as much, it is a big deal to him as well.
How surprised were you that he ended up leaving and coming to the Mavs in the offseason?
I think there's, of course, some surprise because, like I said, it was his home for 11 years. He was born and raised a Warrior, we'll say, in terms of his NBA career, right? And the relationship that he has with Stephen Curry and the trio of him, Steph, and Draymond Green. So I think from that standpoint, it's always a little surprising when that kind of dynasty, really, that legacy comes to an end. But at the same time, when you look at his last few years with the Warriors, it did feel as though the writing was a little bit on the wall, just in terms of whether it was his happiness, whether it was how the team was doing. I think both parties felt they needed some change to be able to continue to flourish. And so by the end of last season, it didn't, the way that the last season ended, it didn't make me actually surprised when it happened, even though, of course, that shock was still a little bit there.
How have the Warriors managed to put this back together? Are they real contenders with this hot start that they've gotten off to?
I mean, they sure look like it, right? And I don't think that what they're doing is really a fluke right now. And I also don't think that big loss to Cleveland is something that people should start losing their head over. They've replenished with a lot of depth. I mean, you see a guy like D'Anthony Melton, Kyle Anderson, Gary Payton finally healthy. They feel that they have the depth that they didn't have before. And Draymond Green talked about it the other night. He said, we have lineups that can go big, that can go small, that can shoot, that can defend. When you have that much versatility, it sets themselves up for a lot of success. So I don't know if I'm going to say, all of a sudden the Warriors are huge number one title contenders, but you have to take them a lot more seriously than I think people were planning to heading into the year.
What do you know about the status of Klay currently, how he's fitting in here and how he's navigating, trying to find his new role?
I mean, it seems like it's going pretty well, right? He seems to be happy. The Mavs, there was a missing piece for them for sure in terms of the offense. When you look at their finals run and kind of what their shortcomings were, they needed that scorer. They needed that third person. And so I think, of course, anytime you bring in someone new, there's going to be a little bit of growing pains. But overall, Klay's off to a good start. Dallas is off to a strong start. So it seems to be a pairing that can continue to grow, because sometimes you bring in a star player, and I won't name other teams or other names, but you see other star players coming in and you're like, I don't know if this is actually going to work. That doesn't seem the case with the Mavericks.
Hey, Kendra, our show believes there needs to be more of you on air and less of Tim McMahon. Do you have any comment about that? We feel like that Tim is kind of dragging you down. Could be. The fact that you're having to carry him, I think is it shows what kind of person you really are in this broadcast.
I'm going to tell him that, because I just did TV with him, and he told me I was a bad passer. So I think I'm definitely going to come back at him with this information.
Yeah, just tell him that his guys on the GBag Nation think that he's really that more of you, less of him, and it would be a far better broadcast. Perfect.
I'm going to clip this, actually, and just send it his way right now.
Let's go. ESPN NBA reporter Kendra Andrews here with you on The Fan now. Is it surreal when you work with your sister, or do you get used to that? How's that go?
It's always a little bit surreal, but you do get used to it. And the way I always describe it is like, I can't watch us, right? I'm in the moment doing it. And so it's like I'm talking to her on the phone because she's just in my ear. But it's when you see the clip back, or, I think about when my parents get to turn on the TV and watch us, that's what really makes it that much more special and is exciting. I love that they get to watch both of us do this, and they live in the Bay Area. I get to cover the team that they watch every single day, so that's a lot of fun.
Did you guys grow up liking basketball, playing basketball, anything like that?
Absolutely. I mean, it was. I think one of the reasons why we both ended up here is because of how much basketball was important to us growing up, and I just remember when we were younger, every night basketball was our family time. We'd sit there after dinner, turn on whatever game was on. A lot of the times, again, being from the Bay Area, it was a Warriors game. So it's really, really special that we got to turn this little family hobby into a career. We always joke that we monetized our dinner conversations. We used to sit around the dinner table talking about hypotheticals and analytics, and now it's our full-time careers.
Hey, Kendra, what makes Steve Kerr such a great coach?
That's a good question. I think he demands a lot of respect from players and others around the league. He's experienced, and I think he, for the most part, understands how to approach players, how to handle different people. I think as much as coaching is about the X's and O's, it's also about personality management. And out here, the Golden State Warriors have a lot of personalities, and maybe it's just because he's been with them for so long. He just seems to know all the buttons to press. There was a clip that kind of went viral on Twitter of him yelling at Steph the other day after Steph turned the ball over. But he just knows that, listen, he can do that with a player like Steph. He can go up to Draymond and tell him how it is. And then the mind of basketball, too. I think he understands the X's and O's really well.
How do you like covering Draymond Green?
I love it. I think, I always say, anytime he talks, you're going to get a story. And so as a journalist and as a reporter, that's the biggest thing. I think his personality is huge, and a lot of people say stuff about his antics, but I think at the end of the day, he's an incredible player, and, he's always given me time and thoughtful words. I think the antics are definitely there, and that is definitely part of who he truly is, but it's like I said, anytime you walk into the interview room and Draymond Green is coming up to the podium, you're in for something.
What's the emotion and what you think is going to end up taking place with, Steph and Klay getting back together for the first time?
Yeah, and Steph is actually going to take center court before the game tonight and say a couple words to the crowd, to Klay, and it's going to be really special. Like Klay, the Warriors have been keeping their emotions, or at least when talking about their emotions, dialed down, don't want to play into it too much. But I think it's going to be a really special moment, especially for fans. I don't know what their contact level has been leading up to tonight, but again, you just go through the history books of what those two have accomplished together, and you can't. It just kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. You can't just go into this game thinking it's going to be another one. It's going to be weird. It's going to be different. It's going to be weird seeing Klay wear 33. That's what Steph said the other day. It's going to be weird to see him in a Mavericks uniform. I've heard so many players talk about when they go visit their old, arenas, like they've never been in the visiting locker room. He's never had to get off the bus and go up the loading dock, right? Everything is just a little bit different, and that's definitely going to have a bit of an impact tonight.
Is the captain hat going to be a good accessory for you or a poor one?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm gifting it to my father. My dad, as soon as it was announced that these hats were coming out, my dad texted me and Malika saying, "You guys are going to get me a hat, right?" So I'm going to try and track one down for my parents, and I know that will be displayed very proudly in their home, probably next to my mom's Klay Thompson jersey. So I think it's a great accessory for fans. People loved and still do love Klay's, admiration. I don't know if that's the right word, but just love for the water. It really did become a trait of who he was when he lived here, and fans love that. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked, "Have you been on the boat?" And I say, unfortunately, I haven't been on the boat. I didn't get to go on it. But there's this lure around Klay and the boat, and so I think fans are really going to love the hat.
Kendra, before we let you go, what's the word on the Mavs slow start? Were they overrated coming into the season? What do you think?
I don't know if it's overrated. I will say that, even me watching last year, I was a little surprised with their finals run, right? I think it just because they weren't in the conversation leading up to it. So they set this super high bar for themselves, making it all the way to the NBA finals. And then once you do that and you don't start out, let's say as the Cavs are doing 12-0 or off to an incredible start, people want to look for reasons of what's not working. But kind of like I said before, they are still incorporating new players. They've had some injuries. They're trying to figure things out. We're only, 11 games? This is the 11th game of the season, at least for the Warriors. So it's super early. At a certain point, it does become less early, and we have to stop saying that. But in my opinion, the way that I look at the NBA, unless you are, there's room for improvement, and there's room for doing worse. There's room for both areas. But the Mavs for me are a team that I don't think you look at them and say, oh, they're overrated, or oh, the finals run was an absolute fluke. I think there's still room for adjustment, and there's room for them to keep going.
Thanks for your insights, Kendra. Enjoy the game.
Thank you so much, you guys. Talk to you soon.